Well, SABC News reporter Lulama Matya is on the ground monitoring the situation as part of our build-up to the main event this evening. A very good afternoon, Lulama. What's happening where you are?
Good afternoon, Nompu. I am joined by political analyst Asanda Ngwasheng as the clock is ticking towards 7 p.m. this evening, when President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to address the nation. Some people are saying that this year's SONA is so important in many aspects. It's post-COVID-19. Lockdown regulations are being lifted slowly. Businesses is continuing in some sectors as usual. Schools have returned to full cycle. But to talk to us more about that, Asanda Ngwasheng is with me here. Asanda, let me start perhaps by saying that, do you think that the president, when he is addressing the nation this evening, he should start by telling the nation why are we here at the City Hall, not in Parliament?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely that's going to be a very important point, because we still have not heard enough information about what happened in terms of the fire. We still don't have enough information about what government actually plans to do in light of the fire that happened. And I think that particular incident to me stands out. You know, the fire at Parliament, the rocks being thrown at Constitutional Court, and all these other seemingly little but big incidents that are indicators that our democracy is really under threat. And our democracy is not under threat, you know, because South Africans are not doing what's required. Our democracy is under threat because the very people that are supposed to govern us and that are supposed to be custodians of that democracy are the ones, through their infighting, who have created a situation of instability and a situation of, you know, fear, real fear in South Africans, that are we going to see a coup? How long are these incidents going to go on for? And I think that, you know, one of the things that the president is going to have to do is figure out a way to put South Africans' minds at ease, to make us somehow believe that he has the security situation handled. We're seeing outside here, the City Hall here, there's a little bit more police than usual. There's a number of sweeps that are taking place. Earlier when I came in, it was a bit difficult to come in because they still hadn't finished the sweep. And we're seeing that, you know, there's changing of routes. There's all kinds of indications that security is high on the list of the government and the security cluster. But we're still not getting an indication of how seriously the government takes the security of the country and the state. Because it's one thing to be obsessed with securing the president as an individual holding a particular office, but we need to be able to understand from the president how he plans to secure our country from the insurgency that has been going on, what he plans to do to stop that insurgency, and how he's going to give us confidence that we're not going to wake up one day with a coup, that we're not going to wake up one day with the union buildings or some other important building or institution of democracy burning.
This afternoon, Police Minister Bekele had a media briefing where he assured South Africans that people must not panic. South Africa is safe. There's no need for people to panic. Do you think that is enough?
I don't think so, not at all. I think Bekele, sadly to me at this point, is the last person that can say that we shouldn't panic. If you read, even just bits of the reports about what happened in July, you realize that his inaction and his inability to actually do his job was one of the reasons why we saw continued looting over rolling days. Because one can forgive maybe day one, where it was a shock and a surprise. But what I can't get over, and what I know a lot of South Africans can't get over, is the fact that the situation continued for days, even to a point where it moved to a different province and was now in Gauteng and threatened to spread across the country. Our security, our state security, cyber security was caught sleeping. Our defense systems, the army, the military was caught sleeping. Our state security intelligence was also caught sleeping, in the sense that although they flagged the situation and they highlighted the situation, I don't think they did enough to make everybody understand that this is an imminent threat and we have to do something imminently in order to be able to stop it. Because the problem is not so much that the ANC is fighting anymore, and that potentially it's different ANC factions that are doing the firing up of the fires, etc. The problem is that you have created a situation, you have created a gap where ordinary South Africans, where organized criminals have been shown that the state is not serious about security, and that the state does not have the capacity that's required to kind of stop this kind of insurgence. And so it's not even that we have a danger of actual factions acting. We have a danger now of random South Africans who are pushed and motivated by whatever forces are pushing and motivating them, taking it upon themselves to light a fire, taking it upon themselves to create some kind of unrest. And that is a big problem that, it just shows you that if you look at like political theory, there's a theory called the social contract, which is basically says that the will to govern people is given by people. So South Africans give the will to govern to government. We give government the power to govern over us and tell us where we can and can't go. We give the government the power, like the police gets the power to use actual violence and restraint against us. That's why our police service has guns, because we give them that power. Now what happens when that power is not exercised properly is that people take it back. And so we're seeing already now vigilantism is on the rise. There's a group called Dudula which came out during the looting, seemingly was about stopping the looting. Now this particular group is going out, is specifically targeting foreign nationals, and basically doing a blanket cover and calling everybody that's a foreign national, particularly who's black and African, technically an illegal immigrant. They're not necessarily separating, because there is a difference between a foreign national who's here legally and one who is here illegally. And what's happening is that because as a country we have shut down conversations on what is the impact of immigration and the high levels of immigration that we have in South Africa from across the continent on the poorest of the poor, people are having an affinity and are being attracted to anybody who seems to be tackling the issue. So when government fails, people step in and create the gap. And if you listen to the leader of that particular group, he comes and he's wearing military fatigue, and he talks about communities taking back their communities and standing up for themselves, which is a good thing, because communities do need to take up their communities and do what is required for the communities. Except when he is done with the people he calls illegal immigrants, who is he going to go for next, and who is going to stand in his way to stop him? We've seen with the likes of Julius Malema what happens when you have a young person who suddenly has a lot of power and influence. We've seen the kind of mobs that he's able to gather up. We've seen the kind of cyberbullying that he's able to get people who disagree with him to get. So we now have a new Malema in the making, and we're not going to be able to stop this Malema in the making if the government continues to create gaps for those kind of organizations to be formed. Because for every single political gap that is created, somebody is going to come in and step into the gap. You're seeing Action SA, same agenda around immigration. They are stepping in where government should have done, because it is the role of government to regulate immigration. It is not the role of ordinary citizens to stand there to decide who's foreign, who's not, who's legal, and who isn't. And the reason for that is because it will descend into chaos if ordinary South Africans start taking back that power and start being vigilantes and start enacting. But we understand why this happens. It happens because our government is leaving gaps all over. And this is going to create more political instability. And I can tell you for sure that over this period of 2022, we are going to see more protests. We are going to see more political revolt in general, because the government has literally removed their hands from the reins, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has shown himself to be a leader who cannot make a single decision. The guy cannot even hire a judge. He was given the opportunity and gave 4 names. Why didn't he just give 1 name and make sure that we're able to appoint somebody and move on? It just shows you that, initially when he started being president, everybody was like, oh, he's consultative, or he wants to make, many groups happy. But now it's just like the guy just doesn't know how to make a decision. And this is why we're here. And it's dangerous for South Africa to be led in this particular moment by somebody who's indecisive.
Talking about that, if he is taking that decision now, he's being decisive this evening when he's addressing the question of the economy, what should he say, steps that must be taken to boost economic growth post-COVID-19 and post the July unrest? Because those two had a big impact on business and jobs.
I think that if the president is serious about turning around the economy, we shouldn't be putting these gap stops and giving financial aid here, financial aid there. Yes, financial aid is important, but you can't give financial aid in perpetuity. The president is missing a very critical opportunity to transform the South African economy, to rethink the kind of economy we have. South Africa is not a poor country. South Africa is not a country lacking in money. If you think about the fact that we have many mines, we have, some of the biggest diamonds, we have gold, we have platinum, we have all of these minerals that everybody wants. These companies pay royalties to our government. We have a small tax base, but quite a big chunk of that tax base pays high tax to government. And we have, so many other avenues that the government gets money. Our problem is not wealth. Our problem is not money. Our problem is that when the money hits the fiscus, the very people who are charged with spending that money properly are the ones who have long fingers and take that money and use it for their own personal gain. And if we are not careful, we could be looking even at things like a tax revolt and all kinds of things that have been seen across the African continent. I mean, we have the template of the kind of disasters in every single version that happens when political will is not there, when the social contract is broken, and when people feel like political instability is what's running the country. And we are not heeding the calls. We are not looking at the problems. We're not saying, we've seen what happens in Zimbabwe, we've seen what happens in every other country on the continent. We are not doing that, and that is what makes me really scared for South Africa, because we, out of every single country, being the last to get democracy, have had the opportunity to write a different script. And here we are rolling down the very familiar path of destruction, of corruption, of being in it for the self.
Nompu, let me leave it at that. When Asanda Ngwasheng, our political analyst, is saying that as the last African country to have independence, we should be writing a different script compared to other African countries. With that, back to you at the studio.